Hello, good evening. Welcome to episode 194 of Cantinho Benfiquista podcast, Leveling Out or Just a Blip. As always, I am your host. I am Mike. I am joined by a skeleton crew today. It's just myself and Bill. Bill, how are we? It's been a little bit of a change in terms of mood since the last time we were here, but how are you feeling?
This is bringing us back down to our the glory
Therapy
days of the
sessions?
podcast, where
Oh, God.
it's not enjoyable, but it's getting shit off your chest.
Don't remind me. Yeah, we went through the first couple of years where it was just therapy sessions. It was brutal. We even contemplated maybe we were the bad luck.
Yeah, going away for a bit.
Yeah. We thought about taking a sabbatical and seeing if things would change, but here we are. We're back. Tonight we will talk about another frustrating performance against AVS or AFS or AVS or whatever you want to call them. I don't know what the hell they call themselves, to be honest. We will talk about our current form. We'll look at our last five, the five before that, and the first five, just to compare some numbers, some percentages, and some shots. And we'll look ahead to our next two matches, which are against Nacional on Thursday, which is the makeup game that got canceled. And then we will also look ahead to Estoril on Monday at home before we travel to Alvalade after Christmas. So we've got quite a bit to cover, and we have only two of us. So if anyone in the chat wants to join us and wants to jump in and share their thoughts, we'll post a link in the comments in a bit. But if you're tuning in, please be sure to join the comments, leave us your thoughts, your opinions. And as always, don't forget to follow us on the various social media platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe, share, follow. And this is our first broadcast on Instagram. So testing it out, seeing how it functions. We haven't done it in the past, but figure spread our wings and cast that net a little bit wider. So you can now watch us live on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitch, and now Instagram as well. So you got no excuse to not check us out. And you can also watch or listen to the audio format after the fact on any of the platforms you get your podcasts on. So let's get started. So Benfica takes on AVS at the weekend. Kenny had hinted to a potential banana skin type game, or trap game is what he called it. We also witnessed quite a few changes in the 11. I think after the Bologna game, we had all talked about, could there be a little bit more rotation? Could there be some changes? Could we leverage a little bit more of the depth in our squad? It turns out maybe Laj was Laj, I guess, making a decision to kind of silence some of those critics, or was he really just wanting to make some changes? The timing of it is interesting, right? Because he's had quite a few opportunities to make some changes, but nonetheless, Best comes in at left back because Carrera suspended. We got Tonio Silva at center back, replacing Otamendi, Tomás Araújo, and Ba. So two changes in the back line automatically, one forced, one unforced. Midfield, he goes with Barreiro and Auschness, and then Aktürkoğlu, Kokshu, Amdouni, and Ertur Cabral. So he's got Barreiro comes in for Tino, Amdouni comes in for Di Maria, and Cabral comes in for Pavlidis. Again, you can argue, discuss what you want in terms of these changes. It was 5 in total, 4 forced. And I don't want to specifically talk about the game. I want to kind of speak about the form in general. In the previous game to that, we had the Bologna game at home where we drew. We didn't score any goals, 0-0 performance. But just in general, right, we drew at the weekend against AVS, an opportunity where if we had won and then we win this game against Nacional on Thursday, we depend on ourselves to be able to go to Alvalade on the 29th in first place. Now we still can. Difference being is we don't depend on ourselves to go to Alvalade in first place. We could come out of Alvalade in first place, depending on ourselves, but we can't go there in first unless we win and Sporting drops points this weekend against Gil Vicente, which we'll talk about that. But what's your feeling at the moment, Bill, in terms of kind of how things have played out in the last 4 weeks versus kind of where we were 4 weeks before that?
I think we've definitely come back down to, hopefully it's not reality. Hopefully it's just like a dip in form, but we've definitely come off the high of that initial Bruno Lage back. Team definitely reacted to him being back, or changing the manager. The team reacted, and went on a great run of form. And I think when we were talking off air, I think looking back since Porto, I don't think we've put. I mean, we had the Taça de Portugal game against Estrela,
Stadilla.
which we smashed them. But apart from that one game, I don't think we've played well, and we've been getting lucky with results. And we went through this with JJ, right? Like, we went on that first season. We went on, like, was it like 7 or 8 games to start where we're winning, but the team wasn't performing, wasn't playing well. They weren't convincing victories. We've kind of fallen into that right now, where we were getting results, but we weren't playing well. We were squeaking by, getting a little lucky with own goals and stuff. But these last two, the Bologna game at home, yes, it's Champions League. Yes, it's like Bologna. They're not a scrub team, but at home, you should come away with a result there. And
And
you
they
should
also,
be,
not to mention, Bologna had a bunch of rotated players
yeah.
in that
I mean, they're
11 after they played Juventus the
right.
previous weekend.
Yeah. And you shouldn't be. That first half was, to me, embarrassing. At home against Bologna, you have what I think it was, like 40% possession.
Yeah.
Like, and that, to me, just like from viewing it, seemed high because we could not get possession. We couldn't hold it. It was very much get it, long ball, hope Pavlidis can come down with it, or hope Otakoglu can run onto it. Like, it wasn't sustained possession. We couldn't find a way to break their press. It was frustrating. And yep, we turned around in the second half, but again, we couldn't find the goal. And for me, it's that one stood out a lot, right? That game at home, a game where we need, I wouldn't say need the 3 points, but the 3 points there leaves us in a very comfortable spot
Correct.
for the
Puts us at
last 2 rounds.
12 points.
Right. That would have left us in a
And
very comfortable spot for the rest of the Champions League. And now
and I was
we're,
just quickly before, I went back and looked at, I went and watched the match, the Bologna match back. I was laying in bed watching it on my phone because I wanted to watch it in a different perspective of, like, all right, the result's gone. I have the stress gone of, like, we need to score, and I just want to actually, like, dissect this game. And I'm just looking back at I sent a novel in our WhatsApp of, like, what I thought about the match, right? And, like, we scored that early goal, Pavlidis, right? Who's offsides, which again is another problem, right? Like, the amount of times that he's caught offsides is crazy to me, right? And I don't know, is it a confidence thing? Is it just he's so anxious to just get in that
yeah,
spot to
I
score the
think it's one of
goal,
those things where
right?
he's
Like, you
feeling
want to
it.
do it, yeah,
Yeah,
right? Like,
he's
whereas if you're
feeling it, and he's
confident,
trying
maybe
to.
you take that extra second to give yourself, right? So,
Yeah,
but we scored that goal 2 minutes in, right? It's called back, a clear offsides, right? It's not even close. And then after that, we didn't get into Bologna's box in possession until the 28th minute when Kerem recovers the ball midfield. He plays it through to the right side to Di Maria. He cuts inside and takes a shot. Hold on, I got Oscar jumping in here. Welcome, sir.
How you doing?
hey,
I was listening. I knew you guys were gonna talk shit about Lodge, so I came
Oh,
in.
so he
okay, you
decided
got
to
to
show
come
up.
save him.
So we didn't get to the box again to the 28th minute. Again, with that shot, Di Maria, it goes wide or it deflects off of someone. One thing that I took away in those first 15 minutes, like, the pressure that we were applying from the team was very individual. Like, those first 50 minutes, Kokshu, like, ran around with his head cut off, and then he stopped being that first line of pressure and he dropped in, and Tinu started being the more offensive midfielder when they were playing out of the back, right? Because basically he just burnt him out. Again, I don't know if that was a strategy. I can't imagine Kokshu just decided he wanted to just chase the ball and burn himself out in the first 50 minutes. But that was one of the things that I realized in that game. And then again, we walk away in that first half with 40% possession at home against Bologna, who rotated players. And we had that shot that Di Maria had a one-timer that, again, was right at the keeper. It's a nice play. It's a nice shot, but it's a save that I would expect any keeper at this level to make. He didn't have to move his feet. It literally was just straight at him. And then Auschwitz, people talked about Auschwitz opportunity. He had a shot that he came down the left side of their box, left-footed peg. He was off balance. He doesn't really get good contact on it. It was a slow dribbler that was going to end up going to the keeper. I think it ends up taking a deflection and goes off for a corner kick. But he's off balance. He's almost fallen sideways. He doesn't really get a good shot off. Apart from that, that first half I thought was disastrous. And then the second half, I thought we came out a little bit better. We played our lines a little bit higher. But even then, the game was pretty even to some extent. But Benfica was starting to recover the ball further up the field. But then what I think happened, in my opinion, is from like the 55th minute till about the 70th, it looked like Bologna had an absolute just breakdown physically, right? Which was helping Benfica get that momentum, get forward, keep the ball in their half, which we did well. And even you can see the coach from Bologna arguing with his players to get up, get forward, right? Their lines are dropping too deep. And then he makes a change in the 70th minute. And then again, the game starts to kind of level out. And now it's really kind of like a race, right? It was almost like offense versus defense. Often, like it was just one would go, one would come, one would come. But I felt like we never really had control. Did we have opportunities? Yes, we had a few shots. The goalie made a couple of big saves. He had the shot on Pavlidis. Amdouni had that shot in the second half. Again, I don't think it was a miraculous save. I think it's a save that I would expect a keeper at this level to make. It's a save that I would expect Rubin to make on the other side. But overall, I didn't think it was a great performance. Did we create enough opportunities to win that game? Yeah, you could argue, right? We had 5 shots on target. They had 1. Did we have control of the game? I would say absolutely not. But Bill or Oscar, what were your thoughts in that game?
No, you explained it well. I think we came in flat-footed on the first half. I thought we were gonna come in, balls all, just kind of basically suffocate them, come in and just take it to them, and we did not. We kind of came in and kind of hesitant. So I was surprised. And that with the way we started the second half is how I expected to start the first half, especially on this game at home that we needed to win. That's the team, probably the last team that we had almost a guarantee win. And I was surprised. But before the game started, I told you guys that is the best 11 we have. All right. Now,
correct. I don't disagree with that.
That is the best.
I don't think
11.
anyone could disagree with it.
Right.
No.
Right. So do I think Lodge and I know you guys hold back and let's not press forward?
No.
Probably not. So I don't think it was a game plan that was bad on his part. I think just to play. I think some of the players are in bad shape. Some of the players are physically just exhausted. I'll tell you right now, like Artukoglu, the way he started compared to what he's playing now is one guy that is dropped off from.
Kaku has too. He had a good run of 4, 5, 6 games.
Those first 6 games
of
Lodge,
and then he just
man of the match
too.
every game.
So and that's one thing I kind of told you guys from the beginning is like we're using the same 11 back to back on every 3 days, and eventually that's gonna happen. I complained about Roger using Di Maria for the 90 minutes every game last year, and eventually comes to January, we're gonna have see Di Maria fall off, and I'm seeing this right now with the Coxus, with the Artoglues. I'm seeing that a lot with these players, and if he doesn't use another, like, get these guys in the games, then we're gonna see that with a lot more players. And so hopefully he changes that. But yeah, the second half we did enough to win the game, like you said, Mike. But the first half was very embarrassing.
Yeah, and when I said it in the group chat that I felt like we prepared for the match incorrectly. And when I say by prepare for the match incorrectly, right, I felt like the Feyenoord game, for example, I felt that despite us losing that game, I felt like we had more possession, we had more opportunities, right? They just were clinical, and the chances that they got, yes, it was a little bit chaotic. But in this Bologna game, I felt like we didn't like our press was terrible. Is that a fitness thing? Is that a strategy thing? I don't know, right? Only they can answer that. But from like what we can see, right, like the team's not pressing as a whole, right? It was very, very individual. Like these two would go at this moment, but the lines wouldn't keep up, right? So then, I mean, we've all played. Two guys pressure, the rest of the team doesn't come with you. You break that line of pressure, and now you're screwed, right? And then these two guys would go, or that one guy would go, right? And there was a couple of times Kokshu comes like a madman out of midfield and just runs straight line, chases the goalie. The guy plays it around, bing, bing. He's out of the play, right? Now you take the forwards out, you took Kokshu out, right? And now Tinu's by himself in the midfield. So, and that's what I was saying in terms of like, I feel like the preparation for that game wasn't right. Because it just the team as a whole didn't look like they were together.
Do you think has to do with the preparation, meaning like, hey guys, don't press all as a team, or do you think is there some players that just can't do it right now? Some players
it could be a mix of both. I can't imagine
both.
that Bruno Lage at this level is going to be like, hey, we're going to press individually, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, an amateur knows that you can't press. If you press, you have to press together, right? You can't press.
Right.
So I don't think it's as something as basic as Bruno Lage is saying, we're not going to, right? You press this time, then you, right? I don't think it's that. I think it could be a mix of, right? Okay, we're going to press this way, but then the fitness piece also comes in, right? And if that's the case, then I'm maybe a little bit more concerned, right? Because I mean, we're only in December. I get that these guys have been playing a lot of minutes, but then you also should have metrics, right? We have a huge department that analyzes all these metrics. They wear the device on them, right? And those are games that you don't have to make 5 changes, right? We can switch a player here, or 1 or 2 here, rest those legs, then 1 or 2 there, right? So like, I think it's a mix of a few different things. I personally don't think it's just one thing. I don't know if Bill or if even you, Oscar, you think you see it a different way.
I agree. I mean, I would hope, right, that Lage isn't any manager at this level is like setting up their team to press at like individually, like 1 or 2 at a time. Like if you're pressing it, you're going to do it with the whole team. And I think we're getting to the point, like Oscar said, right? It's the same 11, the same 3 or 4 guys coming off the bench. Like it's like who's coming off the bench every game.
Correct.
Right.
And I'm going to ask you, guys a question off the back of that, and I'll start with Oscar first, but I'm going to hold on to that thought. Right. We fast forward to the AVS game, and again, this, like I said before you jumped on, Oscar, we had 5 changes, 4 were forced. I don't think any of us disagreed with changes, right? I think we all thought that this was an opportunity against an AVS team that's towards the bottom of the table. They haven't had that great of a season. Yes, away games are typically tricky, but in this case, I will say I thought he got the game plan right coming into the game. Why do I say that? Because I think we've all talked about wanting to see Amdouni more central. I think he's a better threat in the middle of the park, or at least being able to float rather than forcing him to stay on the outside. And I thought that tactical change, I was watching it closely, and Best was giving us the entire left side, which was then allowing Amdouni to come inside and frequent that space in behind Artur Cabral. And then we ended up seeing that combination play on the goal in the first half, right? Where he comes from the outside, comes inside, 1-2 passing, and he puts that in left-footed. So in that case, in the first half, and I thought we were pretty much controlled. They had 2 chances that weren't really chances, that came off 2 stupid mistakes that we made trying to play out the back. Tony had one, and then we lost the ball playing out the back. So while I criticized what I thought was poor preparation in that first half versus Bologna, I can also applaud. I thought he got the game plan right against AVS in that first half. How did you see that first half, Oscar? And I know that you had said you weren't opposed to the changes, but now kind of in hindsight, how do you feel?
I applaud the changes. That I said, I even called you guys it'll probably be 2-0 by the 30th minute. It could have been. I mean, we had
a one or more chances to
we
put
had a
it.
few chances to put the game at 2-0.
Yep.
When they scored in the 17th minute, I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna be right.
Yep.
You know. And then when we had control of the whole first half, I think we played really well. The guys that came in stepped up and they did really well. So I think his mistake is trying to bring in Artur Cabral. To me, was a freaking dull, like nothing,
Useless.
Like,
I was telling Bill offline. I think I remember him touching the ball once.
And when he did, he messed up. Like he didn't do anything with it. So so to me, it's like, man, you come in and you score goals against Monaco. You deserve a chance to start. And then you have a game like this where you have the biggest opportunity to say, listen, Pavlidis is not scoring. I'm scoring. Like I need more chances. And
against a lesser opponent too.
And you don't fucking touch the ball.
So
you don't. You're no show.
So I think if he had scored a goal, Pavlidis would have not come in, right? Because it would have been more like, hey, we'll play the game out. We need Pavlidis for the upcoming games, whatever, right? If we had scored another goal, I don't think Di Maria would come out, right? So when we started playing, basically giving the ball away on the second half, like for some reason looked like freaking we're playing Barcelona second half, and they had all the possession. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I see why he did those changes. Bringing in Di Maria, which can hold the ball, can get more possession, can get the ball back in our feet. That kind of killed the game, because now we have Bob that was kind of having a bad game already. When not Di Maria not helping him, so there starts a whole freaking ball crumbling, going downhill, right? So I think even though the idea behind his subs were correct, Cabral was useless. Pavlidis can hold the ball a little bit more up front. Di Maria, we didn't have possession. Di Maria comes in, we get more ball in our feet and more control. I think the idea was behind it was good, but those two guys did not do exactly that at all.
I think the idea was good, and Bill, I'll pass it to you. I think the idea was good. I think the personnel that he took off was wrong. I was
just about to say that. I was
right, because I think
Barreiros to me was the
mistake against Monaco, right, where he took out Tinu, and our midfield just completely dissolved, right, and we were up a man, and we couldn't do anything. And then he corrected that mistake, and he brought Barreiro in towards the end of the game, and we leveled out again, and we ended up turning that game around.
Thing.
And but we did that with Tino coming in 74th minute. I mean, these guys only scored the 94th minute.
No, he took Barreiro out in the 60th minute.
Yeah, right. But
he brought him. Yeah, and then he corrected it 14 minutes late. But if you watch the change of momentum in that game from the 60th minute until Tino comes in, and we took 10 minutes to bring Tino. If you watch the game back, Tino was on the sideline for like 10 minutes. I even texted in the WhatsApp group saying, can we just kick the ball out so we can make the substitution? Like, what are we waiting for? Right. But if you watch their stats too, if you watch the momentum and the difference of the game from the 60th minute to the 14th, that's when AVS started to get that belief. So, like, here we go. And then at that point, we couldn't get it back.
You don't think against AVS, right? We're winning 1-0. And basically, we already second half started off with them pressing high, getting more ball and all that, right? Yeah. Putting Arsenal as a defensive midfield, which his position could be a number 6, right? For the national team, he played as a number 6, right? Taking out Barreiro.
But yeah.
Putting Di Maria. But against AVS, you can see that. Fine. You don't see us playing with a true trinco because we want possession. We want possession of the ball, and having Arsenal instead of a Barreiro, instead of a Tino, would make sense to keep him there. Could put Di Maria on the side and keep Koksu in because who can hold the ball as well, right? Even though Koksu is sucking.
But that's the difference, right? And I know what you're getting at, but the difference is Auschwitz now is a one-man midfield without the ball. And that's why I say the personnel decision was wrong. For me, he should have taken out Koksu and Artur Cabral, right? Because now you have Auschwitz and Barreiro, both players that can cover ground. Right. I agree. And that's where I think he messed up was Koksu should have came off because he was
Barreiro
not very good.
I totally agree. But
Auschwitz ends up being a one-man mid.
But when you think in possession, we're losing. We're losing possession.
Well, in possession, in normal circumstance, in that moment of the game, Koksu wasn't giving us anything. And at that moment, AVS was starting to grow. And what we needed was guys that could make the effort and cover the ground and then do the rest, right? If we can't get the ball, we can't possess it.
Right. And I think,
And that
but
was
his
our problem.
mind was, I want to put these guys that can hold the ball
And
and
fair.
and get the possession back, and then with the
And it fell
possession,
apart.
we can
It was the
do
same
more.
thing, like Mike said. It was the same thing in Monaco. He did the same thing, and it
Correct.
didn't work in Monaco. And again, it failed this
Monaco,
time.
the only thing was different in Monaco is we couldn't put a Trinco win because we had to go after the result. We were losing.
Yeah, but then
We
he
had
put
to
a
go
Trinco
after
in
the
anyways.
I get it, but we were going after the result. We need to put guys that are more offensive, not a Trinco. We need to go put more offensive. But when Barreto came in, changed the game because it kind of gave us the balance.
Stability.
And
Correct.
We need the
We leveled
stability.
out again.
But I think before Barreto came in, his mind was, we have to go get a result. We need to go get a result.
Correct.
We're playing against
But-
10 guys and we're losing. So we need to go get the result.
Fair. But again, then he ends up correcting the mistake and brings in Tino. But I felt like at that point we had zero momentum, and then we literally could not. We looked like a bunch of chickens with our heads cut off. We couldn't keep the ball. We couldn't do anything, and it literally just felt like. I mean, and unfair to him, right? Di Maria came in. He didn't really have an impact. I think I saw a stat. Jean Lamedon was talking to me about it. I think he said in like the 20 minutes that Di Maria was on, or 30 minutes, he lost the ball like 9 times or 19 times or something crazy like that. Like a stat you wouldn't associate with someone like Di Maria. And Pavlidis, right? He had that moment where he came into the box straight away, right? He lost the ball on his feet, almost got a shot off. But apart from that, like we weren't getting the ball there, so he couldn't have an impact either, right? So it's almost like the changes really didn't have an impact as we would have expected, which also played against him, right? So the midfield change hurt us. We couldn't get that momentum back. And then the two guys that you would have hoped would have been able to at least put some calm in the game also weren't able to get into the game. So it was basically just like a massive snowball effect of disaster between AVS getting momentum, the subs that we made weren't able to get into the game. And it was just like, I felt like it was just a matter of time. Like it's coming.
I
And
mean,
then eventually,
in all honesty, I think Arsenal said it right at the end. He goes, "We deserve to tie." And if
he was
anybody,
honest. Yeah, we should.
if anybody
100%.
deserved to lose, it would have been us.
It was us, 100%. After that second half, I 100% agree. AVS did not deserve to drop
Dude,
point or to lose that game.
Post.
Yeah, they had the
They hit
shot
the
off the post or the rebound
yeah.
that Trubin saved. Trubin made a couple of big saves in that game. I don't recall, unless you guys do, I don't recall AVS goalie making like an actual save. Maybe he made one, but I can't recall one off the top of my head.
He had
made, right?
Didn't he had? I think he had one on the knee in the first half. But I mean, that was in the first half. That wasn't.
Maybe he did. Or
that second
or
half.
maybe,
I don't even.
yeah, you might be right. Yeah, the second half. I don't
Second
think
half.
he
I don't
barely
even know
touched the ball.
if we got down that way.
Yeah. So I want to get into some of the numbers and get your thoughts. So I just want to run through the comments. So Pedro Vieira is back. Welcome back, Pedro. He says painful second half for AVS. Worst half by Lage. That display would make Roger proud. Brought back bad memories. Manny Vitorino. Extremely difficult to watch. That very disappointed on how they played on the second half. They definitely deserved to lose that game. I agree. If there was no ties and someone had to win, I think we'd all agree that AVS should have come away with the win. Is this team tired? They seem also mentally tired. Not sure what's going on. Hold on to that thought. Pedro, we're going to talk about that. Boris says Di Maria is an illusion. This game he was an illusion. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get into it. Vespa, it'll be okay. It was just a bump. All teams will lose points. In the end, we make the math. I agree. At the end is when you decide who wins. But like we've talked about many times, it's these games that decide titles more so than the games against your.
And it's frustrating when, like, the context of how the season started and being able to like scrap back and Sporting slipping, and like you have the chance to go into Alvalade at the end of the month in first place and you lose points, whatever, like it happens. But like to me, the frustrating part is the performance. Like if we played well and Ovs was able to squeak out a result,
yeah,
you take it. Like it happens. But like the complete no show of the second half is just so fucking frustrating, given that like we could have gone into Alvalade in first place and just added to the pressure that's already piling up on Sporting.
Yeah. What are you gonna say, Oscar?
No, I'm just saying. I mean, we can still leave Alvalade in first place.
100%. Like we're still in a
and we can
spot.
still
like,
go there in
over.
first place too.
Yeah. So like it's not the end of the world that
Right.
we don't win trophies in January or
Correct.
December. So like to me, this is I mean, a bad game is meant to happen, but the thing is, it's like it's a few bad games in a row, and that's what's a little bit of a worry.
That's what we were talking. That's what I mentioned before you jumped on. Like it's not just this one game. We've had like three or four
not
games where we
well,
played
since
bad.
Guimarães, because before that, I mean, we were beating teams easily, and we came from a few
No.
different 7-0 and all that stuff.
No,
So like,
no. I'll give you the stats on that. So, last 5 games, we played away to Monaco. We won 3-2. We played away to Aroca. We won 2-0. We played at home to Vitória. We won 1-0. We tied at home against Bologna, and we tied away to AVS 1-1. In those 5 games, we scored 7 goals, conceded 3. On average, we had a 53.6% possession and a 46.4 possession against, 5.2 shots on goal versus 4 shots against. In that 5-game bracket, I would argue that of those 5 games, we didn't have one good performance. Would you guys agree, disagree? Monaco was very fortunate. Aroca, we had that own goal that unblocked the game, but it wasn't really a great performance. Vitória, I didn't get to watch the game, but having seen the highlights, we had 1 shot on target and we scored 1 goal. Vitória had 2 shots on goal. Bologna, we just talked about that, and AVS, we talked about that. So we won 3, drew 2, scored 7, conceded 3. Would Bill, of those 5, do you think we played a good match in any of them?
I don't.
Oscar?
Again, I think we're fortunate to get results and not playing well.
No, I think if all those games, other than the Monaco, in Avs, we deserve to win most. We just didn't play excellent like we were expected to play, but we deserve to win most of those games. Okay. Right? Against Guimarães, we had 3 big chances, we missed 2. Guimarães had 1, right? So let's go by those. Like we haven't played 90 minutes, solid 90 minutes in any of those games. But I think deserving to win, there's 2 games that we didn't deserve to win, which is Monaco and Avs.
Okay. The 5 games prior to that, we had Rio Ave at home. We won 5-0. We had Santa Clara in the Taça Liga that we won 3-0. We beat Firenze away 2-1. We lost away to Bayern 1-0. We beat Porto at home 4-1. In that span, we also beat Estrela at home for the Taça de Portugal 7-0, but there's no stats. So I added the Rio Ave game as the 5 and didn't count the Taça de Portugal game because there's no stats available for it. In that 5-game window, we won 4, lost 1, which was the Bayern one, which I think we all would have signed off on. We had an average of a 55.8% possession and a 44.2 against. So we had 2.2% higher possession in that 5-game window. We had 7 shots on goal, so almost 2 more shots on goal, and 3.6 shots against. So we had less percentage of shots against. We scored 14, conceded 3. So we scored double than we did in the previous 5. Again, not counting that Strela game because there's no stats on it. And we conceded 3. So we conceded the same amount. We scored double the amount. We had more possession and we had less shots against. I would say in those games, taking out the Strela game, Porto, Firenze, Santa Clara, Rio Ave, Bayern, I would say apart from the Bayern game, I would say we played well in 4 of those 5 games. Oscar, would you agree?
I agree. And my thing is that's what I'm going back at. Like I think we have some players not in good form, and especially
definitely dropped.
I'm talking mostly from midfield up. So that's what changes those goals. I mean, Artur Kuglu came in scoring 2 goals a game and whatnot, and he's died off. Pavlidis hasn't found the net. Artur Cabral is a one-time wonder type of guy. So we are not scoring goals now, and those guys are in not a good form.
Yeah. Bill, would you agree?
100%.
And then his first 5, we beat Santa Clara 4-1 at home. We beat Red Star Belgrade away 2-1. We beat Boavista away 3-0. We beat Gil Vicente at home 5-1. And we beat Atleti at home 4-0. In those games, we had 53.6% possession versus 46.4. So less percentage. Those percentage-wise are identical. So his first 5 games and the last 5 games are identical in terms of possession, ours and theirs, but we had 7 shots on goal average and 2.4 shots against. So not only were we shooting more shots on target, we were only conceding 2.4. In those 5 games, we scored 18 and conceded 3. So in these 3 blocks, we've conceded 3 each time. So we're not conceding a lot, which is good. But in this first 5-game bracket, we scored 18. So as we look at the brackets from bottom to top, first 5, previous 5, and his last 5, the goal scored has gone down 18, 14, 7. And in between, the only games that are missing in those brackets is the loss against Feyenoord 1-3, and then Pavide in the Taça de Portugal 2-0. So it's interesting to see, right? Shots against has increased, shots on goal has decreased, goals scored has decreased, goals against has stayed the same, which I think is a saving grace, right? Like we're not conceding. So,
Yeah.
right, if you don't concede, you're very much closer to winning games. But what I wanted to go back to is the comment here, and let me just look at some of the comments first before I go back to that. Boris says Nacional will be decisive. We lose points there, it's bye-bye. We got the win versus Guimarães, but could have been a draw, and we could have been 3 games without a win. This team needs a breath of fresh air. Also, we keep getting disappointed with Cabral. This was a chance to gain a spot in the team. Mind you, the whole team didn't perform. We need someone that puts the ball in the net. Frustrating. So I think we all agree on most of these, if not all these points. Back to Pedro's comment, which is this team tired? They seem also immensely tired. Not sure what's going on. The title of the podcast is Leveling Out or Just a Blip. And what I want to contextualize here is, I'm going to start with you, Oscar. Bruno Lage comes in. Again, Bruno Lage 2.0, similar to when he came in the first time, except he came in earlier this time, takes over a team that's not his, right? He did the same thing in the first time around, turned a 7-point deficit into a title in 4 months. He joined in January, won the title in May, right? So he had a small window, and he was able to turn it around. He comes in again this time, 4 games into the season. Again, a roster that isn't his. He's got to deal with what he's got. Comes in, and it felt like the team had a mental, a psychological, a motivational uptick, right? Like I think we all agree that like this, just the team looked different. You know, I went back and looked in our group chat. You know, we had all talked about the team looked hungrier. We were pressing better. You made a comment also, you know, the team has Raça again. Benfica's back, Lage ball, right? Like we've seen all those things, right? And again, I don't think we can say different because those first 6 weeks was like, you know, a rocket ship sent to the moon. Like we were playing well, we were scoring goals, we were creating a ton of chances, and the numbers show that. And then all of a sudden it's like, have we hit a blip, or are we kind of fizzing out that momentum, you know, that boost of motivation, that boost of momentum that comes, you know, they call it in Portuguese a machicotada psicológica, right? When a coach comes in, right? Are we leveling out on that? And how, you know, is the oxygen mask running out of that air that's coming through to us, or is it just kind of a phase? And are these players tired? How do you look at it? And I want to end with, I don't buy, and I don't, sometimes I don't know if you're just BSing us or if you actually believe it, but I don't buy the story and the narrative of like the team sucks, right? Because if in his first 5 we're guns blazing and, you know, crushing and playing well, right? And now all of a sudden it's not going so well. It's the same players, right? And it's the same coach, right? So yes, they may not be his players, but if he was able to get them to play the way they played in the first 6 months or the first 6 weeks, something changed. And again, it could be motivational, it could be psychological, it could just be that burst is dying out. But like, how do you look at it? And sorry, one more thing. I feel like ever since in this whole stretch, we were playing 3-4 games, right? And then we had international breaks, but he even said it himself. He hasn't had many opportunities to train with the entire squad. Before the Vitória game, we had 1 whole week. And I thought personally that was going to be like a good week to rest, a good week to train. And here we are, like he's going to get that opportunity to really work the players and the dynamics and the game plan and the tactics and the ideas. and it feels like we had that week, and I feel like we've not looked good since that week, which boggles my mind because like he wanted that week to be able to work with them because we were just conditioning recovery game. Then we finally get a week off with the team together, and I feel like we haven't looked good against Vitória as a whole, against Vitória, against Bologna, against AVS. So I'm going to shut up now because that was a lot. I threw a lot out there. But what do you take from this? Do you agree with Pedro? Are we tired? Is it mental?
I think, yeah, I mean, I said it earlier. I think he has to kind of figure out that he cannot use the same 11 every single game. And I think because he's using the same 11, I think people are getting complacent. I think the players are thinking they have their lugar cativo on the 11, and they nothing like Coxu. You can see a difference when late Lodge came in. Coxu was like, "Oh my God, we got Zidane back. This is."
And he even said, "I'm happy to play now."
Exactly, right. And all of a sudden, he went back to Roger Coxu, right? So he's the type of player like that. Yeah, and I was liking him. I'm like, this is a Coxu that I actually enjoy watching play, right? And then, but he's not that player. He's not that player. I think he's a cancer. He's a cancer, and a lot of things revolve around him in that midfield. So yeah, some players are just complacent, and I think they need to be. Chicotada Pisclock means in the bench. Like they need a little rest, because if he keeps using the same 11, we're gonna keep seeing the same exact things. We're gonna rely on Di Maria to save us from a lot of these games, and Di Maria can't do it. Di Maria is 37 years old, and he's not gonna be able to save us every single game. So either he starts using some. And when I say the players suck, is because he hasn't used anybody else. Are they that bad? Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on?
So is that on the players? Is that on the coach that he's not using them?
Well, he didn't ask for these players. So are they on the players?
It doesn't make a difference. It's
correct, but we don't know.
His team.
I get it, Bill, but we don't know how Pisciani was starting with Roger. He hasn't seen the field since Lodge came in. Yeah. Is he that bad, or is it really like what's going on? Like
that's the thing, right? Like, I don't think we can point. From what we can see, our vantage point, we don't see, right? So from our vantage point, at least from my perspective, is I can't say the players suck if I don't see them suck, right? Maybe he sees them suck, right? And that's why I don't know. Yeah, but from our vantage point, at least in my opinion, my only question mark is, why aren't they playing? Could we at least see them play to figure out, right? But instead, we're left with the idea of like, they must suck in practice.
That's what I'm. And that's
what I trusting.
Wait, so then is Cabral a fucking Maradona in practice? Because in games he fucking sucks, and like he still gets playing time. Like
only problem with Cabral is he has come in a few games and actually saved us or score goals, and because Pavlidis is not scoring, is why he started this game. Everybody, all of us said Artur Cabral deserves a chance to start, especially in a game like with Pavlidis is not scoring. Artur Cabral is coming in and scoring, so he deserves to start. So
but I think our deserve to start is more so off the back of Pavlidis not scoring, because, and I could be wrong, but I think the only decisive goal that Cabral had was against Monaco.
Correct, and he scored.
And then he had the game against Stadilla that he basically was going to come off, and Lodge felt bad for him and kept him in, and then he ended up scoring 2 goals
and he scored.
Correct. But at least he was scoring. That's the difference. He was scoring. And Pavlidis needs to score goals, because obviously Pavlidis is our striker.
Yes,
he's our guy, right? And I think something like what I mean about Coxu, and Coxu did get the bench not too long ago. So that's surprising to me that he got the bench against I don't know who it was.
He was suspended. He was suspended.
So he didn't play, and I thought you come in and be like, okay, I'm fresh. You can play.
He looked more tired.
Yeah. So like that's what I a lot of plays. I think that, and this is what I go back to. He needs to rotate a lot, not 5 at a time, but a guy here and there that is low in form. Like what's the guy's name? The Danish or whatever it is.
Sheldrup. Again, like he's come on and looked good in games, and all of a sudden done.
Artukoglu is having he's a little bit down on his performance, right? Why not give that kid a shot on a game like this?
Or even Rollheiser.
Like I'm not even sure how the game against Nacional has to be the same start 11 that ended, right? So we can start a different 11.
Yeah.
I thought it was only the injured players cannot go. Cannot obviously. They can
No,
rotate
I was reading about it today. There's certain nuances. As long as the players were registered at the time of that game, they can alter their 11.
Okay, so I'm not sure. I mean, Nacional is probably the bottom of the table. Who do you start now? That you saw this game against VS, right? So he needs to rotate players. He doesn't have to do a 5 at a time, but he needs to rotate players a lot, especially the players that are not performing well. And I'm thinking Koksu and Artukoglu, the Turkish guys, have to have a little bit of a rest.
Yeah, Bill, what's your take on this current moment?
I mean, I agree with what Oscar's saying. I think it's a bit of complacency because he's using the same 11. So these guys, I mean, you get to a certain point and you're like, well, he's not going to rotate. He's not rotating the squad like regularly. I got my spot. I'm good. And I think Pedro touched on it. His last comment. I think it's the problem we're seeing now. It's not just one guy dipping form. It's like 3-4 guys. Like I mentioned it to Mike. Like, yeah, Karem's down, Koksu's down, but Freddie, to me, he looks tired, and like we've seen him like for seasons just run and go, like energized batteries that never run out, and he's looking like he's feeling the fatigue a little bit, and I think it's games like this and when players dip in form like this where the manager, like, they have to shine, right? They have to make the decisions. They have to utilize the squad. And I get it's not his squad, but it is a squad. Like, these are the players he has, and he can't keep rolling out the same 11 and expect guys to somehow find energy when they're only getting 2 days rest, right? Like, it's not going to work. Like, these guys,
and not only that, and not expect guys to come off the bench that haven't played in 3 months,
right, exactly. And that was one of the things that I'd said, right? Like of the 5 changes he made, Tony was the one that worried me the most because he hasn't played an actual game in quite some time, right? And I think he showed a little bit of that rust in the game, especially in the first half. But I agree with you, Oscar, right? Like, you can't not use them and give them some minutes to get game rhythm, right? Because we know you don't practice at the same speed as you play, and then throw them in from the starting 11 and think,
expect
all right,
something.
Go figure it out. You guys are going to make it work, right? Like, I think, and again, that was one of my uncertainties of that, the amount of rotation that happened.
Like, we go back to the you threw those 5 guys in, and I think it pinned out.
It did. Apart from Cabral, I don't think anyone was bad. Correct. Of the 5 that he brought in, I don't think anyone was like really bad.
Yeah,
Cabral had to play it. Plavlidis, I think, needed a break. Not only because he's not scoring, but he runs his ass off, and it's nonstop. Like, but I think without him out, we lose that pressure up top.
Correct. Because Pavlidis gives us
everything changes. The way we play is completely different. Yeah,
he links the game differently, right? Like, it's just a different type of player, and he gives us a different dynamic going forward. But I agree. I think of the 5, I think if I had to rate them all, Cabral for me was like a non-existent. Exactly. Yeah, like I felt like we played with one less guy.
I would guarantee if Pavlidis has started, and I'm not saying he scores a lot of goals, we probably win this game easy.
The way we started that first half, I would probably agree that we probably put the game away in the first half.
Yeah. And not only because
he gives us a different dynamic.
And I'm not saying Pavlidis would score. I'm saying we would score more goals.
Correct.
Because
it gives us a different dynamic. Yeah. He links up the game differently. And just a side note, let's not forget that in the preseason, where Pavlidis looked good, he had a forward playing behind him, Marcos Leonardo. And I think we all commented on in the preseason that the two of them had a really good partnership in the preseason. And I said it in our group chat, I feel like both of our strikers need someone in closer to them and not being so isolated. And I would really like to see Amdouni in behind Pavlidis. 2 mobile players, 2 players that can move and aren't very.
Amdouni can score.
And he can shoot.
Dude, he shoots exactly everywhere. He's not afraid to pull the trigger.
Which then forces your defenders to make a decision, right? If you got a guy that's going to weasel his way and find a spot and pull the trigger from wherever the hell he is, right? As a defender, you're like, shit, I can't give him space. What does that do? That opens up space for the guys like Pavlidis or Artur Cabral, right? So, like, it changes the dynamic completely. And that's why I think, like, if he can play with Amdouni behind him and not wide, I think our dynamic offensively changes. Again, I don't see them in practice. I don't know what that looks like in practice, but from our vantage point, or at least from my vantage point, that's the perception that I get. Pedro says, do you think Cabral has what it takes to play in Benfica? Is he Benfica material? Oscar, you go first.
Dude, is that even no, he's not. He's not Benfica material. He's from Benfica Academy, maybe just to kind of practice.
I don't know, dude. I'll take some academy guys over him.
Yeah, but no, he's not. He's not. And he's one of the guys that I think has gotten the most chances to kind of show up, to be able, like we held them over strikers that I think would pin out way above his level. And we held him thinking he maybe we invested all this money on him. He'll come into himself and he'll score some goals. And man, it's not happening. Against Estrela Amadora, like you guys said, Lodge felt so bad for this guy to score a goal. It's like it probably would have been he would have been there until like 10-0 to just get him one goal.
Yeah, literally.
No, he's not. He's not, and it sucks because now with just being off form, not scoring goals, we have to rely on him.
Correct.
And because he's the two solid strikers, the only strikers. I'm doing is more like a second striker.
Yeah. And people that watch the Italian league who I've talked to said like he looked really good at Fiorentina. Now the difference, like I'm not saying, and I don't think any of us are saying that he's not a good player, right? Because for him to be a professional and be where he is, he's got to be somewhat good. I just don't think Benfica's style of play now, or even with Roger, fit him. I would love to understand what the criteria and the motivation was to bring him in. Was it a panic buy, right? Like we need someone, we have the money, let's just go do it, because he's not mobile. We don't play a type of, like, he's that striker that like and I'm not comparing the player. I'm comparing the type of game that they needed. Jardel was a guy that just needed to live in the box, right? And again, I'm not comparing him to Jardel because he's nowhere near him. What I'm comparing is they're strikers that live in the box, and you just put the ball there, and they're going to bully their way, and they're going to find a spot. Then there's strikers that can come outside the box, can drop in between lines, can help link up play, right? And that's what Pavlidis is, and that's what Benfica historically has had. You look back on all of our strikers, right? Jonas is a guy that can play in the pocket. Seferovic is a guy that was mobile. Jean Felix is another guy that's mobile, right? Mitroglou, while he looked unathletic, he was a guy that could get after it. He can get pressure. He can get around the guys, right? So, like, when you look at the historic Lima, Cardozo was probably the closest type of forward of like a box presence, but he had someone playing off of him, right? He had a Lima that was playing off of him, right? So he had a Saviola, a more mobile guy, right? So like Benfica's history isn't typically, at least in recent history, isn't typically of strikers that like, all right, you go in the box, we're going to feed you the ball and you're going to score goals, right? That's not what we're used to. And he unfortunately is that. And I feel bad for him because he's basically the victim of, in my opinion, poor planning.
And you have to consider another thing is like we're playing with two wingers that are off-footed, right?
So and they don't cross.
They're not going to cross. They're going to cut in to shoot.
We have Artukoglou that cuts in and shoots us his right. We have Di Maria that cuts in and shoots us his left.
And he'll cross occasionally, but he preferred the shot.
Correct. And if we have the only time that we have our strikers to get crosses is when Carreras goes up or Mba goes up and crosses the ball. And those guys are defenders, obviously, but our wingers are not there to cross the ball. And before we had Gaetan crossing to Cardozo on a fucking platter. We had Salvio on the other side crossing to Cardozo, make balls on a platter. So if we have Cardozo playing with this team, he would not be as lethal as he was then.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying. He's a victim, right? And Boris says Nuno Gomes. Nuno Gomes, well, I feel like he was more of a hybrid. Like he was a guy that could be in the box, but he was also a guy that can drop back and play in between lines. But I agree with Oscar, right? Like if you had a guy like Cardozo on this team, does he score goals? Probably not.
Because he's not going to come out of the box to hold the ball. He's slow as fuck. And he's not athletic.
And that's what Cabral is. He's slow as fuck, and then he can't get into the box. But when he gets in the box, the cross isn't there anyway. So it's just like,
and he's gassed from running 40 yards.
And if you notice every single cross that comes in from our left backs, from a left or right back, our balls coming low, pulled back to the top of the 18 or to the penalty box. They're not crosses in the air for a header. Like the only times we cross those in the air, Artukoglou and Amdouni actually scored headers against Monaco. But there were balls cut in, and then look, the that was Artucabal scored. Di Maria was on the left side that crossed it.
Correct, and he played it. And where did he hit it? At the top of the 6.
Correct. But like
Yeah.
that's a ball that a winger would cross from
Correct.
with a right foot, with a foot that's supposed to be crossed with.
Correct.
But in this case, we have them both playing on opposite sides, so it's going to be impossible.
Yeah. So we haven't had that in a while. Moving on from this, I wanted to just comment 2 things this week. We had Auschwitz and Tomas Araújo renew their contracts till 2029. Bill, 30 seconds on your thoughts on 2 of these players. I would probably argue, or I think we'd all agree, 2 important pieces to Benfica's future renewing their contract. I think that's good business.
Oh, 100%. I didn't see what the Tomas is like. I'm assuming this is renewing to raise his release clause. I didn't see what it went to, but
I didn't see. I also think salary wise too, because his original contract was still 2027.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, Freddie, he's one of those guys that like I look at and it's like, keep this guy at the club as long as you like possibly can. Like, he's just a motor. He's one of those players you look at that like heart of the team, potentially future captain. And I think the Tomas one, I think, is just trying to protect them from having to like him being bought in January or having to sell him cheaper than they would like in the summer, because he's been playing phenomenal.
Oscar, what are
I agree with Bill. I think Tomas Araújo is impressed me probably the most in the season. Like he's a guy that I thought didn't have a spot in the 11, because we had as soon as Otamendi renewed, and I didn't think Antonio Silva would lose a spot. So I thought Araújo was going to be just another Morato, like just there as a third center back, and then kind of use him as a right back when we needed it. But no, he's been probably our best center back this year. And
definitely
Arsenal,
not probably.
Yeah, and Arsenal's is just a motor, like Bill said. Those are the 2 renews that I was expecting and applaud.
Boris quickly says, rumor has it Juve wants Silva. There has been a lot of rumors about him. Jorge Mins, I believe, is his agent, if I'm not mistaken, which probably doesn't help the case. But
I mean, I'd love to see, because Otamendi is not going to stay. That's already a guarantee. Obviously, January is probably not going to happen anymore. But I think in June he's gone, right? So I think Antonio Silva staying for 6 months and having him and Araújo as our center backs could be massive. So hopefully we don't fall for the trap of like letting this guy go too.
I agree. Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that we're going to sell him in January, because then we're going to have to go into the market to then find.
And they wanted him on loan, I believe, with the option to buy, which is even more stupid.
I don't see us doing that, especially in January, because then we're going into the market trying to find a suitable replacement, and it's a crapshoot in January. Like, we're not going to be.
But not only that, you have to bring in a player that isn't used to the club mid-season, right?
Yep.
And what if they don't adapt? Then you're stuck with an old guy and a young kid.
Is there still the Champions League club tie? Like, if you played for a Champions League team,
I believe they changed that with the new format too.
Okay.
Yeah, which would make sense because it's such a big.
Yeah,
no one drops out, because before it was if you dropped into Europa League you could play, but now it's like,
I don't see it happening, and I think, like Oscar said, I think Antonio Silva is one of those players who we all expected to be a regular starter this year. He hasn't gotten it, but I think it's a player that we expect for the future. He's going to be a regular starter. And if you're going to sell when he's not playing well, like, it's just bad business, right? Like you hold on to the asset to when they're playing well, and you can get as much money as back as you can.
Yeah. Rui says, saudações barrosãs, renovações impecáveis e dupla mais que provável, Sr. Silva e Tomás. Não. Dupla mais que provável, yes, Sr. Silva e Tomás. Pro ano. Abraço para ti, Rui. Já é muito tarde aí desse lado, mas de certeza certo estás a trabalhar. Pedro says, so both Ota and Silva will leave. Otamendi is definitely out of contract at the end of the year, at the end of the season. I hope Antonio Silva doesn't leave, just because, again, I think we have the opportunity to put 2 Seychelles products who played together in the youth system on the first team playing together, which I think would be.
They won the youth together, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would
So I
be the
think it would
first
be.
time, but it'll be pretty impressive because Ferro and
Don't say that name.
Dude.
hey, they won as a league.
They did. Yes, they
did.
did. With Lodge.
Yeah.
Yeah. That name
So-
haunts me.
And I'll tell you that year the Ferro and Ruben won it, there were commentators saying that Ferro was probably better than Ruben.
Bro, I said it.
I was one of them too. I agreed.
I was
You
like,
tricked
Ferro
us,
looks
dude.
better like on ball.
He looked like a baller. Yeah, he had better feet. Yeah, and then I don't know what the
Fuck.
hell happened. Moving on quickly. Upcoming matches. We got Nacional away, makeup game, and we have Estoril on Monday at home before Christmas, and then we go away to Sporting. We'll be here next week so we can talk about the Sporting game. But just quickly, Nacional.
The 29th to the 29th are probably the toughest month I've ever seen Benfica play.
The what?
The 29th of December to the 29th
Oh,
of
to the 20th of January. Oh, we can
That's
dissect that.
That's going to be basically make or break it.
Correct.
We've said that like 3 months.
I know,
ago,
but
because we just keep
every
looking
month
at
we
it,
say
yeah,
it.
this is
we
wrong.
didn't have the teams that we have
Yeah.
now playing.
No, it is. I know. I agree.
Right.
There's stretches that are going to be really, really hard.
Just to run through some numbers here. Nacional away again, makeup game. If Benfica wins, we are 1 point ahead of
1
Porto
point.
and 1 point behind Sporting. Is that accurate?
Correct.
I believe
Okay,
so. Yeah.
and then we'll all be level. We'll all be level on games. Jesus.
Yeah.
Against Nacional, we are 7-0 in our last 7 away to Nacional. 2013 is the last time we dropped points there. We tied 2-2. 2010 is the last time we lost there. We lost 2-1. Nacional's 15th, 1 point above the relegation zone, again with 1 less game. They've won 2 of their last 5. They won their last one, I believe, against Moreirense. They lost or drew their 3, and then they won the 5th one. They have 10 points at home from a possible 18. Scored 6 at home, conceded 9. We have 11 from a possible 18 away from home, and we've scored 9 and conceded 5. We're unbeaten at home, so we haven't dropped points at home. So again, the fact that we've dropped all of our points away from home always leaves you a little bit weary heading into these games. And then we take on Estoril on Monday. We're 5-0 in the league in the last 5 against them. We lost in 2024 in the Taça da Liga in last January, which wasn't in Lisbon. We lost in penalty kicks. We are unbeaten at home this season, 7-0 with 1 less game than everyone else. 23 goals scored, 3 against. Only Porto has a better home record than us, but they have 1 more match. They played today at home, so they're 8-0. We're 7-0. Estoril has 3 points away from home in 6 matches, so not very good on their travels, and they've scored 4, conceded 10. Oscar, I want you to give me your thoughts on how these next 2 games play out. Again, away to Nacional, and then we come back home on Monday evening before Christmas and before traveling to Sporting. 2 big games, 6 massive points. What are you expecting here?
I'm really, really scared about Nacional.
Okay.
Because coming from a game where we just performed the way we performed against Avs is going to be a lot on how Lodge turns these guys' mentality around, and can he talk him into, listen, that was just a bad second half, brush it off, let's get back into the fucking game and into our Benfica pressing high and winning this game. So I'm scared of it. I'm scared if Lodge can do it or not, and I'm scared if these players can actually pull through. Right. So that was my first one. I think Estoril at home, we are going to get those 3 points. My concern is Nacional away, especially traveling there and already having a game it mentally means nothing because 9 minutes, but it starts at 9 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So it's like almost like they're gonna
strange.
Yeah. It's almost like we have to rush because now we're 0-0, 9 minutes in.
We have 10 minutes less.
Yeah. So so they meant mind games on that shit, even though it means nothing. 9 minutes is 9 minutes. It's like whatever, right? But I'm scared about that game. I hope I'm wrong and we just pull through and have a good performance and come back with the 3 points. But I'm scared about that one.
Do you think, and I'll ask you the same question, Bill, do you think from a mental perspective, given how we've played in recent weeks, right, performance-wise, not result-wise, do you think a good performance here, bouncing back after the stretch that we've had, makeup game, putting ourselves back in second place, putting ourselves within 1 point reach of first place, do you think that could give us kind of that mental click again to start to go forward again in this competition again, with the next 5 weeks being very demanding, or do you think it really won't have an impact? Oscar.
Talking to me?
Yeah.
Dude, my bad. I was reading Pedro's
He wasn't
comment.
even listening. Bill,
Nope.
do you?
Go ahead, Will.
I mean, I think we need it. Like, I think we need a good performance, right, to kind of level things back, like settle down again. Good, like, yes, result is the most important thing, but I think the performance needs to, like, if we come out and play well and get like a confident win, no stress, I think it levels things back out, not just with the fans, like that's what we want, but I think internally the team, I think it levels things out a little bit, and it could potentially reset, and at least this stretch of these 3 games where we can go into first, or have the opportunity to go into first, right? I think this game on, is it Thursday, right? I think
Yep.
it's a big one, right? And like Oscar said, it's strange because it's a makeup 9 minutes short, coming off of this bad performance in that second half against Ovs. Like, the pressure's going to be there, and I think if we can come out and play well and get a good result, I think it can help reset the team.
What do you, I mean, you're probably gonna get to this, but like, what do you do for this lineup?
I'm going to get to that. Hold on. But
Okay.
Bill, what do you think in terms of expectation in these 2 games, result wise?
I mean, at the end, I agree with what Oscar said. I think the game at home game, you should win, right? Regardless of like, your form's going to dip a little bit, but at home, like, we always seem to play well at home. It's the Nacional game is the big one, and I think if we can go in and like I said, play well, get a solid result, we should if we get a solid result on Thursday, I think the game against the game on, was it Monday?
Studio.
Yeah,
Monday.
Yep. It's on Monday. Yeah, the game on Monday. I think it just becomes that much easier. I think it's just, we need a solid performance on Thursday against Nacional. I think if we get a result and struggle, like, I don't think my confidence level going into Monday is even lower, with the, like, added, like, that Monday game. If we get a struggle on Thursday, with the added pressure of the Sporting game looming, like, it's not going to feel great. I'm going to be stressed out, because I would hope after the performance against Ovs, like, we can bounce back and put in a solid performance, and these players can have somewhat of, like, embarrassment for how they played, and want to, like, come out and play well. Because if we come out, it's not just on the manager, like, it's on the players as well. Like, there's a low level of pride that you have to take in your performance, and it was not there on against Ovs, and I pray that against Nacional, there's some level of pride for the performance, not just from the manager, but from the players as well.
Yeah, Boris says first half will be a short one. Pedro
Yeah.
says, I think Laz should put Rollheiser in best and pull out the Turkish guys, give them a break. Pedro says we have no one that can replace Auschwitz. Unfortunately, we need a good performance in Madeira. Boris says, agree with Pedro. Rollheiser needs more minutes. Al Hunter Araujo says, good evening, subscribe. Thank you, Al. Welcome. And please let us know what you're thinking about these comments and topics that we're talking about. Pedro says, you guys think Di Maria starts? And I want to see Sheldon play more as well, at least 20 minutes every game. Bill, what do you, tying back to Oscar's question, what do you think from a lineup perspective on Thursday?
So I think, I mean, Di Maria sitting out against Ovs, to me, 100% he starts against Nacional. To me, the question comes in is Koksu and Kadem. Like, those to me, like, Freddie looks tired, but, like, he's one of those players that is still going to go out and put in, like, yes, it's below his standard, which is fucking ridiculously high, but he's still going to go out and put it in a solid performance in everyone else's standard. to me, it's Koksu and Kerem. What do you do there? Me personally, I wouldn't play Best out wide. I would want to see Andreas, but I would not be surprised if it's Best and then potentially Sheldrup comes in the second half. Koksu, that's the one that is up in the air, right? Like he, for some reason, Rollheiser hasn't been utilized like at all, and that's the strange one because when he's come on, and has played, like he's looked well, like he played well. So I don't know, but I to me, Kerem and Koksu are the ones that need to be rested this game. I just don't know. The big question mark to me
guys. It's very easy.
All right, Oscar's got it drawn out. What are you thinking, Oscar?
I think it's we win this game with no doubt if it's Carreras, Otamendi, Araújo, Ba, and then we have Florentino, Arsenis as the middle. We have Amdouni behind the Pavlidis and Best out wide. So basically, Best
as a winger.
As a winger.
Best as a winger.
And Best crossing those balls because he can help Carreras when Carreras goes up. So those two guys can make that wing function perfectly, right? Because both of them can cross, both of them can cover for each other, and both of them are fast, and both are good, very good going forward. And then that way we have two targets in the middle with Pavlidis and Amdouni. And then we have Di Maria because he, like you said, he rested last game, and he'll absolutely start this game. And he can do this whole goals Olímpicos and all that bullshit cutting in because that's what he does.
So you're playing more like a 4-4-2 than a 4-3.
Yeah, I think against we need Florentino just because we need to balance the team, right? Because we're up playing away, and we need Florentino there. Arsenis can do that, and then we obviously have Best that can help defend. So Best can cut in. You can probably do the same thing as Arsenis kind of does on the other side, and then leave the Amdouni behind the Pavlidis so they see if they can link up and actually score some goals.
So I just read it quickly what the expectation is. So you can the lineup in that game that we had started with was Trubin, Ba, Tomás Araújo, Otamendi, Carreras, Auschwitz, Tino, Koksu, Di Maria, Pavlidis, Aktürkoğlu, which is the 11 that we've been running with.
Yeah.
The only problem is you can change that 11. I was just reading it. The problem is that of the players that started, they can't be subs. So if he takes anyone out of that 11, they have to basically be out of the game. They can't be on the bench.
Then he's going to start the same 11. Because
if that's a restriction,
if he needs Artuku to come in and to change the game, then he can't bring him in. So it's there. It is 11 is already set.
Yes, to start.
That's the 11. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So they said because it says, ou seja, suspensão tão cedo é já com outras interrupções antes da decisão final. Os treinadores podem fazer alterações no boletim de jogo, podem mudar os 11, mas de acordo com as regras acima citadas em artigo, os titulares da altura não podem surgir como suplentes. So either if you pull someone out of that 11,
they're gone for the game.
They can't be at the game. They have to be on the stands. They can't be an option off the bench, which sucks.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I would still change one. I think Koksu, I'll leave it on the bench and kind of move in.
He can't be on the bench. He'd have to be in the stands.
Just leave him on the stands. Because he's like I said, he just rubs me the wrong way lately.
If I had to pick someone from that 11, I would pick him to leave out. But I think just from a mental risky state, it would be a disaster.
Yeah, and it's risky too because we don't have many options.
Correct. We don't have someone that's creative.
Yeah, we do. Rollheiser can come in and play that position.
Yeah, we haven't seen him enough.
Yeah, that's the problem. You're expecting him to come in and who hasn't played.
And another one is Barreiro, but we can move Arsenal's a little forward and put Barreiro in there.
But so we create a guy that picks those passes. Different type of player. Neil says, is Best our best option at fullback? How about trying Leandro at fullback for at least one game? He's played in that position before on his previous team in France. He was in Germany. But yeah, he did play fullback when he was at Mainz. But again, I don't think we need to overcomplicate things. Again, I mean, we went down this path with Morato. We went down this path with Auschwitz.
Pretty.
Right. We don't need. I don't think Best is the worst. Is he a Carreras? No, he's a different type of player. But I don't think he's he's far from our problem.
He also hasn't played left back.
Consistent,
This weekend was the first time he's played left back in
even at Heidenheim. He played more as a winger than he did as a left back. So
yeah,
I mean, he's a good option to have. He's versatile. He can play both spots, but I mean, I think he's far from our problem.
I think he's a good, he's a solid squad player and can fill in when needed.
I'm confused. What if, like, say we started the 11 we started in Nacional. We played like fucking 5 minutes because the other 4 minutes we were legit waiting for the ball was out of the bounds, right?
Yeah.
So if all the players were like basically in bad form right now, we couldn't use them. Then they couldn't come in and give breaks. That's so dumb. Like, why even fucking start the game?
Because the league is a joke. I don't know why that game even started. It's ridiculous how bad it was from a fog perspective. But again, it's a reoccurring issue there, so I'm not surprised. But
what time is the game on Thursday? Because this is the problem. They set these games to like play at night, and it's like
so at this time of the year they say that
12 p.m. our time.
Is it at 12?
12 p.m.
So it's a 5 o'clock kickoff. Actually, no. Is it less? Because it's
5 or 4. 4.
Is it 4?
Well, it's Madeira. I think it's 5. They're closer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Azores is 4.
Okay,
I could be wrong, but I think it's.
Wait, Madeira. They should be. If anything, they're closer to us, the East Coast.
It depends on
this time.
Madeira's off the coast of Africa.
Yeah.
Have you looked at a map?
Yeah, but the
Azores are closer. Azores are closer to us.
Closer to Portugal. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Azores is closer to us.
Okay, but is it a different time zone than Portugal?
Potentially. I don't know.
It's 2:50 in Madeira right now. So 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 5. Yeah.
5.
Madeira is closer to Portugal than Azores is. Yeah, so it's a 5-hour difference.
So 5 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah.
So we're gonna potentially run into the same shit.
They say at this time of the year it's not as bad. So again, we'll see. Hopefully it's not the case. Let's see what else. I think that's. Let me see if we got any comments here. Best, no. All right. Well, we've got these 2 games. We'll be back on Monday evening. We got Sporting after Christmas. Thank you to all those that were tuning in. Boris says sources between Europe and America in the middle of the Atlantic. Yeah. Oscar needed a geography lesson.
Not about Azores, but about Madeira. I thought Madeira was just off the Azores.
No,
it's way down south.
Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe. Al says yes, this was 4 hours later than here in Ontario. Portugal mainline is 5. Also applies to the US East Coast. All right, we got another Canadian in here.
They love Kenny.
Follow, like, subscribe, share on all the various platforms. We appreciate all of you guys joining the conversation. Again, we'll be back on Monday. Yeah, that's it, gentlemen. As always, a pleasure. Hopefully Monday we've got 6 points in the bag. I have a feeling that we could be in first place when we're back on Monday. Just gonna throw that out there. I think
who's Sporting playing this weekend?
Away to Gil Vicente. Mike,
Mystic Mike. I'm gonna start calling you Mystic Mike because you called the last 2 times.
Listen, I've called Sporting's last defeats, and I said that they're gonna get a result in between to give them a little bit of life, and I'm gonna keep rolling that dice. And I think that they drop points this weekend. It has nothing to do with how Benfica's outcomes are, but I think they drop points this weekend.
Oh,
and
shit!
Hopefully...
And Porto plays away to Moreirense.
Moreirense, yeah.
So that's a spicy
weekend.
So we'll see. Pedro says, good night, Carrega Benfica, obrigado. From Boris. Rui says, se o Rollheiser não for opção para substituir Coxo contra o Nacional, contra quem vai jogar? Infelizmente, como eu disse, se o Coxo não jogar no 11 contra o Nacional, o Coxo não pode ficar na ficha de jogo por causa dos regulamentos. Por isso, qualquer jogador que saia do 11 que jogou no jogo, jogou entre aspas, porque não jogou ninguém, que entrou dentro do campo contra o Nacional no primeiro jogo, não podem ficar na ficha de jogo, então ou são titulares ou ficam de fora. Por isso não acho que vão haver mudanças no 11. Boris says até a próxima. Abraço, Boris. Thank you guys. Awesome podcast. I already follow you on Facebook. Thank you, Al. And Rui, abraço para ti. Vai dormir que já é tarde. Have a good evening, everyone. Viva o Sport Lisboa Benfica. E have a good night. See you next week.